Before we dive into part 2, let's quickly go over the essential events from the first part to bring everyone up to speed. Our story's main protagonist is Raizel, history's most powerful vampire, and also holds the title of Noblesse. He once found himself in a brutal battle against the werewolf lord, Mazaka, a conflict secretly orchestrated by unknown forces. Raizel ultimately defeated Mazaka with an overwhelming display of power, but the fight left him severely injured, forcing him into a deep slumber. After an astonishing 820 years, Raizel finally awakened. To his shock, he found himself in the modern era, a world transformed by humanity's incredible technological advancements. His first destination was his most loyal servant, Frankenstein, who was now the director of Yi-Ran High School. Currently, Raizel simply wanted to enjoy an ordinary high school life, but his newfound peace was constantly threatened. Unfortunately, he was relentlessly pursued by a shadowy organization known as the Union, an enemy that inevitably put his newfound friends in grave danger. Back to the current story. After part 1 of this anime, the Union's sinister plans quickly unfold. M21 finds himself captured and interrogated, as the organization relentlessly seeks information about a mysterious coffin believed to hold an ultimate being. Meanwhile, Union agent Tao connects with Ikhan. Their paths crossed before, and they share a common interest in hacking, which brings them together once more. Unexpectedly, Raizel's friends, Shin Wu and Syra, also have a run-in with another Union agent named Takeo who seemed in troublesome position. As night falls, Shark and Hammer decide to confront the vampire noble Regis. They're suspicious after seeing M21 with him earlier. However, Regis proves far more powerful than them. This forces Shark to resort to using special boosters to enhance his strength. Unfortunately for Shark, Regis then takes the fight a bit seriously, quickly leading to Shark's defeat. Adding to the dire situation, Regis's human friends had been regrettably abducted earlier by the Union, now being used as leverage to force Regis into compliance. Soon after, Shark presented Raizel's abducted friends directly to his leader, Krantz. Recognizing the truly dire circumstances, M21 chose to act. He stepped forward to help the students, fully aware that he stood no chance against the Union agents. After seeing M21's determination, Regis also decided to step in, thus this unexpected resistance forced team leader Krantz to finally make his move. Meanwhile, Raizel had sensed the predicament his friends were in. Fortunately, with Syra's help, they quickly pinpointed the location and Syra swiftly engaged in a fierce fight against Hammer. Raizel then moves ahead calmly, leaving Frankenstein to handle Takeo. Takeo, a formidable and skilled fighter, knew he faced a difficult battle against Frankenstein and chose to activate his booster for extra power. Unknown to everyone, a shocking development occurred. Krantz suddenly absorbed Shark. He then coldly revealed his true plan. Every member of his team was always intended to be absorbed by him, serving as fuel to elevate his own strength to terrifying new heights. However, before Krantz could proceed with his monstrous plans, everyone's attention was ripped away. Raizel unexpectedly made his appearance, his eyes glowing a fierce, crimson red as he took in the sight of his injured friends. In the very next moment, a collective shock rippled through everyone present. With just a single word, Raizel utterly forced Krantz to his knees under an intense, crushing pressure. It was a terrifying display that made Krantz instantly realize the overwhelming power of the superior being he stood before. Somehow, Krantz managed to break free and launched his desperate first strike. But Raizel effortlessly blocked it, then unleashed a swift counterattack that sent Krantz flying through the air. Raizel continued to face Krantz's persistent, furious assaults, none of which could even breach his unyielding defense. Facing such an impenetrable wall, Krantz's next desperate plan became clear. He intended to absorb Tao. Nevertheless, seeing his friend in dire peril, Ikhan bravely tried to convince Raizel to save Tao. Raizel, in a rare display of acceptance, agreed. With a simple, silent command, Raizel stopped Krantz in his tracks using his formidable mind control ability. To everyone's utter surprise, Raizel then proceeded to unleash his blood field, conjuring a terrifying domain of blood. Faced with this overwhelming, absolute attack, Krantz simply ceased to exist. In another part of the battle, Syra fiercely concluded her fight with Hammer, unleashing her powerful soul weapon, a unique, ancestral weapon passed down only through the vampire clan leaders. Meanwhile, Frankenstein was locked in an intense, brutal battle against Takeo. However, upon hearing his beloved master, Raizel, seemingly threatened, Frankenstein unsealed a deeper portion of his true, terrifying power. Takeo was utterly awestruck by the immense energy emanating from Frankenstein, yet his will to fight remained unbroken. Unbeknownst to Frankenstein at the time, the Union was holding Takeo's sister hostage, compelling him to fight. Unexpectedly, Frankenstein noticed Syra seemed to be acquainted with Takeo, and he also recognized the Union agent's commendable willpower despite his circumstances. In a surprising act of clemency, Frankenstein granted Takeo another chance at life, sparing him. The scene shifts as M21 and Takeo later awoke, finding the others resting after the grueling ordeal. Filled with gratitude for their survival and newfound freedom, they decided to seek out Raizel. Following a touching dinner, M21, who had been condemning himself for his perceived weakness, witnessed the full extent of his latent werewolf might when Raizel, with clear purpose, momentarily awakened M21's hidden potential. Initially, Tao and Takeo decided to take their leave. They weren't evil to their core like Krantz but had simply been forced to do shady things for the Union. Nevertheless, they soon realized the Union would never give up on them. Then, rather unexpectedly, in response to M21's personal request, Frankenstein welcomed both Tao and Takeo into their growing group. The next morning, a semblance of normalcy returned to Yiran High School. Yet, for Xinwu, things were far from ideal. All the girls were now fawning over the new, handsome security guards, none other than Tao and Takeo. Despite his particular interest in Syra, Xinwu desperately wished to be as popular as Raizel, whose otherworldly charm seemed to effortlessly captivate every girl. Having no other choice, a frustrated Xinwu and Ikhan decided to request help from their friends, who, unfortunately, were just as clueless as them in the complex matters of love. Shortly after, a basketball match was planned, originally intended as Xinwu's big chance to impress Syra. However, the plan utterly failed when M21 and Regis took over, turning the friendly game into a fierce personal competition between themselves. Nevertheless, Syra eventually learned the full story of their antics from a letter. To everyone's shock, and Xinwu's immense relief and delight, she didn't seem to mind any of it. Unknown to their human friends, Raizel and his companions made a solemn decision: they'd rewrite the memories of those who'd witnessed the recent supernatural events. They believed that the existence of vampire nobility and the Union needed to remain hidden from ordinary people for the betterment of humanity. In the end, even Xinwu and Ikhan approved, understanding it was for the greater good. Soon after, M21 and the others found a shocking sight in front of the school: an old man named Landiger Gizadel. He was openly releasing a powerful aura, unmistakably that of a vampire noble. It quickly became clear that the current vampire lord, the highest authority among all vampires, was actively searching for the Noblesse, Raizel. As it turned out, Syra and Regis had originally been sent to the human world for a crucial mission related to Raizel. Their extended silence was precisely what prompted Landiger, a high-ranking vampire clan leader, to make his own journey. But the most truly shocking revelation was yet to come. The other vampire nobles harbored a terrifying suspicion. They believed Raizel was responsible for the previous vampire lord's death. This accusation was fueled by a chilling coincidence: Raizel's long disappearance perfectly aligned with the former lord's demise, and it was widely known that only the Noblesse possessed the power to truly end a vampire lord's life. With such a grave accusation, Landiger formally requested Raizel's presence in Lucadonia, the hidden realm of vampires, urging him to go and prove his innocence. Despite the critical demand, Raizel quietly but firmly refused, choosing instead to remain in the human world for a while longer. The scene shifts, taking us back in time as Landiger begins to unveil Frankenstein's ingenious past, much to Frankenstein's own visible frustration. Surprisingly, long ago, Frankenstein wasn't just a loyal servant, he was known as a formidable, noble hunter. His purpose was clear: to research and understand the supernatural powers of nobles through his own unconventional and unknown methods. As a human, he achieved a level of power comparable to that of a vampire clan leader, a feat utterly unprecedented and thought impossible. However, the previous vampire lord, intrigued by Frankenstein's unique abilities, commanded two powerful clan leaders to capture him alive. Shortly after, Landiger himself and clan leader Kershaw Rhaegar confronted Frankenstein, finding him fully prepared to fight them both. Following an intense battle, Rhaegar unsheathed his sole weapon, giving Frankenstein one last chance to comply before the situation turned truly dangerous. Yet, in the very next instant, Frankenstein shocked them all. He called forth his own terrifying special weapon, the Dark Spear. It unleashed an overwhelming, malevolent power, proving itself by no means weaker than a soul weapon. Unfortunately, the Dark Spear was still unstable. After a short while, Frankenstein lost control of the volatile weapon, succumbing to its power and going completely berserk. In the next scene, we find a severely injured Frankenstein retreating, desperately seeking refuge in a distant castle. Coincidentally, this castle belonged to Raizel, marking the very first time these two pivotal figures met. Upon discovering Frankenstein's grave injuries, Raizel made a surprising decision. He took Frankenstein under his wing as his butler, effectively saving him from further trouble, and then sent Landiger and Rhaegar away. 5 years later, the vampire lord was greatly amused by Frankenstein's unique personality and perspective during a meeting. It was then that the lord began to explain Raizel's true responsibilities as the Noblesse, emphasizing that this title represented the greatest strength of their entire race. Shockingly, Raizel held the absolute authority to pass judgment on anyone he deemed evil, even the vampire lord himself. This immense power and sole responsibility were the profound reasons why Raizel had chosen to live in isolation for so long. Shortly after setting out on his return, Frankenstein came face to face with a vampire noble. It was clear from the noble's hostile glare that he strongly opposed Frankenstein being anywhere near Raizel. Regardless of the noble's reasons, a fight began. What started as a supposed spar exploded into a fierce battle almost instantly. Pushed past his limits by the intense struggle, and perhaps the noble's provocations, Frankenstein lost control, and a terrifying transformation began. His twisted weapon surged with a malevolent energy, seemingly gaining a life of its own as it enveloped him entirely, devouring its master in a storm of dark power. Fluctuations of immense, chaotic energy spread everywhere from Frankenstein's uncontrolled power. However, in the very next instant, Raizel and the vampire lord both appeared, seemingly teleporting directly to the scene. Seeing the horrifying state Frankenstein was in, Raizel personally stepped forward to intervene, while the vampire lord wisely chose to remain with the others. A blood field erupted at Raizel's command, his overwhelming power clashing directly with Frankenstein's berserk, demonic form. Their energies collided in a titanic struggle until Raizel unleashed a fraction of his true, terrifying power, finally suppressing Frankenstein. Astonishingly, through some mysterious means, Raizel managed to awaken Frankenstein's inner self, but the immense exertion caused Frankenstein to immediately pass out. Afterwards, Raizel and Frankenstein formed a blood pact, solidifying their unbreakable bond, with Frankenstein formally agreeing to serve Raizel from that moment forward. That wraps up our deep dive into the second part of the Noblesse anime. Hope you enjoyed this recap and found it helpful. The third part of this series will be uploaded soon, so make sure to stay tuned to our channel for more. Have a great day ahead.